them to go and they can live out their days. Tortoises live up to 60 years, so we want to protect them and continue their species on for further generations.
I'm Josh Taylor. I'm the Public Information Officer and Communications Manager for the City of Northport, and we're joined now by our Emergency Manager, Mike Ryan.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here, and I'm looking forward to another, hopefully not as exciting hurricane season.
Mike is somewhat new to the city. How long have you been here?
I've been here since the end of February, so this will be my first hurricane season with the City of Northport, but come down from Hillsborough County, where I spent the last 8 years. So hurricanes are not an unfamiliar occurrence.
Lots of experience, yes, for sure.
Yes.
But we're going to try and make this as succinct and as valuable for folks as possible.
Absolutely.
Not quick, but get bang for our buck here.
Absolutely.
So what is the city currently doing to prepare for hurricane season?
Much like individuals, we are going through our preparedness checklist. Basically what that means is we're making sure that all our supplies are in place, all of our personnel, all our staff are ready in case they need to come back to work. They have their plans in place for what they need to bring, what they need for their families. We're testing our power equipment to make sure everything is up and running, performing as it should. Making sure that we have enough supplies on hand, such as fuel, and that everybody's going through the proper training. Everybody's understanding what roles they need to play during a disaster and after the disaster. So we're doing everything that a family and individual would do to prepare, just like anybody else, to be ready for the worst case scenario.
So I think it's important that the community knows that we're getting ready. I'm confident that we'll be ready.
Absolutely, we will be ready.
Yeah. So that's kind of our role.
Yes.
What do individuals need to be doing out there?
What they're looking for from an individual viewpoint is be prepared to be self-sustaining. The general rule has always been for 72 hours. We'd like to push it out, especially with the occurrence of Michael and such of the larger storms, to be prepared for 4 or 5 days. You're looking at making sure you have enough food to carry yourself and your family for 4 or 5 days. A gallon of water per person per day is always a good thing. Have your medications with you. You want to stay in touch, so you want to have a battery-powered radio so you can stay in communications, making sure that you understand what's going on, if there's anything action you need to take, so that if you do lose power you can maintain communications. Flashlights for when it gets dark. If you have children, bring games, and for yourself, bring something to read, because it might be a while.
Yeah, and I think we've noticed more recently with COVID that people start hoarding some supplies.
Yes,
that
yes.
can certainly happen. So
yes.
Now is a good time to get some of this stuff together.
Now is a good time to go out and get what you need. Now is a good time to do the planning, because you don't want to plan in the middle of a crisis, because eventually you're going to forget something. You don't have kind of checklist to go by. So do it now when there's no stress. And you go out and take your time and get what you need. You don't have to get everything all at once. So you can kind of separate out the items that you need to get over a period of time. So it's a good thing to start doing it now.
And we know that there'll be a tax day coming up. Absolutely. Some breaks there too.
Absolutely. So take advantage of those.
Tax week. Maybe it's a whole week. Is it
a whole week.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's one of the things that you really take advantage of. You get some a lot of good materials for a very, very good price.
So what? For maybe, we have a lot of new residents constantly here in Northport. What can all residents expect leading up to, if a storm is threatening our area, what will that, I know they're all different,
sure.
But what will that kind of be like?
Basically what you're going to see is, of course, watching your local newscast, your favorite newscast, your weather person. They're going to kind of lay out what's going to happen in broad general terms. Kind of give you an idea of what to expect in terms of the storm intensity, in terms of timing, et cetera, et cetera. From the city's viewpoint, what we're going to do is provide additional information, some detailed information. If we're opening evacuation centers, where are those going to be located? We're going to close down any government operations. When is that going to occur? We'll provide you information for non-emergency information. If you want to report a tree down or something going on in your neighborhood, it's not an emergency, but you want to call it in so it can be addressed, we'll provide you with numbers for that. So we'll keep you informed on the details of what's going on, but also let you know what's going to happen, what you can expect.
Yeah, and we're in a much different world these days. The city, not necessarily as reliant on other third parties to get that information out. All of our social media, all of these channels. Very powerful tools. Our city app, the North Report, you can download that in your app store. It's a great way we can send push notifications. We also have the emergency alert Sarasota County.
Yes.
So I mean, there's plenty of it. You just need to get connected a little bit.
Yes, and one of the things that we always tell our residents is to, a lot of times there's going to be a period of time where we may not have any communications for an extended period of time. It may happen. This is why it's always good to let others know what your plan is. If you have a plan, share it. Let them know where you're going to be, what you plan on doing, so at least they have some idea. So there's not a frantic call. They know you're safe. They know you're okay. You told them ahead of time what you're going to be doing, what they can expect, especially if they lose communications, where you're going to be. So again, planning out ahead of time and letting them know if you do lose.
Good morning. Today is Tuesday, February 15th, 2022. It is 9 a.m. We are in the city chambers, and I call the city commission special meeting to order. Commissioners present are Commissioner McDowell, Commissioner White, Mayor Emmerich, Vice Mayor Langdon, and Commissioner Luke. There is a quorum present for this meeting. Also present are City Manager Fletcher, City Attorney Slayton, City Clerk Taylor, Recording Secretary Baker, Deputy Chief Morales, and Fire Chief Titus. I'm calling on Vice Mayor Langdon to lead us in the pledge this morning.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
You're welcome.
I'll look for approval of the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda as presented by Commissioner McDowell, seconded by Commissioner Luke. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. City Clerk, is there any public comment? Okay. Moving on to resolution number 2022-R-10. City Clerk, will you read this by title only, please?
Resolution number 2022-R-10, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Northport, Florida, relating to easements in Section 33, Township 39 South, Range 20 East, providing access to the utilities Southwest Booster Station, accepting non-exclusive ingress and egress easements on portions of Sarasota County property appraiser parcel identification numbers 078-500-1050 and 078-500-1010, terminating and releasing a permanent easement on a portion of Sarasota County property appraiser parcel identification number 078-500-2100, accepting a temporary easement on a portion of Sarasota County property appraiser parcel identification number 078-500-2100, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for filing of documents, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. City Manager.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. This item is an easement is required to construct a new driveway between the road leading to the State College of Florida and the Southwest Booster Pump Station through Sarasota County's property. We do have our interim utility director, Mr. Mike Bulow, here to discuss the item and answer any questions accordingly.
Is there a presentation or anything from Mr. Bulow?
Mike Bulow, Field Operations Manager. There's not a presentation, but I can explain the current easement that comes off of US 41 is being replatted for commercial development, and the developer is relocating an easement for us to our booster station through the existing college entrance over next to the fire station. So, and that will be the permanent easement into that facility. And part of the developer's issue with the current easement that we have now is the stormwater pond cannot be developed properly in order to develop the front commercial properties. So that's where we're at with relocating our existing easement.
Okay. Commission questions. Get back to Commissioner Luke.
I just have two real quick ones. Is that drive going to be paved for you?
Yes, it's going to be an asphalt drive.
And will it be gated so that nobody can get back there? And
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
the
it.
gates will
Thank
be
you.
moved and it'll be a secure facility.
Thank you.
Commissioner McDowell.
So I had sent in a couple of questions, and thank you for the answers. It says in section 2.01 that the Minnesota Beach Ranchlands is to construct the driveway on the parcel that Sarasota, the school sits, Sarasota County College sits. But we own where the plant is,
Correct.
and there's a circle drive there. And it doesn't say anything in the contract that they are going to be constructing from the college property to that circle drive on city property. So who is responsible for constructing it from the school to the circle drive?
The developer. The developer is responsible for the complete access, and it'll be all asphalt, and it'll go to the existing asphalt that's already on the booster station property.
Good.
What you said, as far as you're correct, and I will say that, and Margaret's here, and we were actually working on this last night. I think it was some communication between us where I took it as the grantor and the grantee had access to our property, which meant that, you know, they could, but it only meant that they had access up to the property. So that's where.
Commissioner, if I could, we have worked with the developer to come up with some additional language to add into the access easement agreement, some very simple language to provide for that connection between all the way up to our circular paved driveway, and a statement that the city will grant a temporary construction easement that would come back, that actual easement would come back to you on March 8th. So we have some suggested language for a modification with a vote.
For today or for the 8th?
For today.
And that suggested language would be?
Margaret, actually, Assistant City
Yes.
Attorney Margaret Roberts is here, and she can speak to the actual language in the
Oh.
contract.
Okay.
And then we also have drafted a proposed motion for you.
Yes, I have.
Ms. Roberts, do you want to address the contract?
Yes, the easement agreement, section 3.1, that's found on page 3. We've added a reference to read, the driveway shall connect the circular driveway on the grantee property. The grantee property is the city's property, to the paved parking lot located east of the existing fire station on the county property. This driveway is actually on the county's fire station property as opposed to on the school's site. It's just one parcel north. And so this allows for that complete connection of the driveway all the way from 41 with a hard surface to that circular driveway on the city's booster station site. So that reference is added, just clarifying that the new driveway will extend all the way to the city's driveway, circular driveway. I know we've got a lot of driveways here. And the city will agree to provide a temporary access easement for the construction purposes. So while they're building that driveway on city property, they'll have a proper easement. That's the item that will come back later.
So what we would suggest, if the commission is so inclined to approve this language, is a motion to approve the resolution with revisions to the access easements agreement to provide for the paved driveway to connect to the circular drive on the city's property, and to state that the city will provide a temporary construction easement. Now, if you do make that motion, then when the temporary construction easement comes before you on March 8th, you would need to approve that unless you really had some reason, some real concern with the language in the access agreement. I mean, this would create an obligation to approve that construction easement.
And thank you for all of that. My concern was just simply, the agreement doesn't say that Minnesota Beach Ranchlands is constructing the driveway from the fire station. I apologize, I said school originally.
Right.
From the fire station to the circle driveway on city property. I don't hear that in the proposed motion unless I'm missing something, because
I'll let Ms. Roberts correct me if I'm wrong, but the agreement already requires them to build a paved driveway. It just did not specify that it come all the way up to our circular pavement on our property.
That is correct. And the revised language I just read to you connects it, extends it to that circular driveway. So that's the revision we made to address your concern.
okay, because the original agreement is mentioning PID numbers, and I'm not hearing that PID number for the city property. And that's the only concern I have, just.
That's
Understood.
right, because there's a term being used, grantee property, that is defined in the agreement. That is the city's property.
Gotcha. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
More, Commissioner McDowell?
Nope, thank you.
Okay. City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We do not.
And I'm going to close this public hearing and request a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Okay?
I move to approve resolution number 2022-R-10 with a revision to the easement agreement to provide for a paved driveway to connect to the circular driveway on city property.
I have a motion on the floor by Vice Mayor Langdon. Could you repeat that again, please?
Sure. I move to approve resolution number 2022-R-10 with the following change to the easement agreement to provide for a paved driveway to connect to the circular driveway on city property.
And Vice Mayor, would you consider adding to your motion and to state that the city will provide a temporary construction easement?
Yes. Shall I repeat that? And state that the city shall provide a temporary, is that construction site?
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I didn't hear who first, but I heard Commissioner Luke as a second. Please vote.
Can I speak to the motion?
Sure.
I wanted to thank staff for addressing the concerns. Contracts are.
That was a good catch.
I just always like to double check and make sure everybody understands. So I appreciate the indulgence and.
And that passes 5-0. Moving on to general business, 22-2265, the final ranking of the city of Northport, Florida, surtax 4 projects list. City manager, this is your item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this item regarding the surtax list is a follow-up to the January 3rd, I believe, a workshop we had where we received feedback from the board on the items that we presented. There were some tweaks to what was presented. We did receive some feedback from yourselves, and we went back and tried to make sure that some of the priority items were shifted to be sooner in the surtax distribution as opposed to later. The goal of what our finance director, Ms. Williams, is going to discuss today is to share that feedback, the adjustments that we've made, as well as get a consensus on the list that we can send to the county at the end of the month. Just a reminder that the list that we send and the information that you are reading and discussing today, it is not prioritized in a 1, 2, 3 order. It is a rankings list by us that we will prepare and give to them. But I will turn it over to Director Kimberly Williams for a presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Kim Williams. So yeah, as the city manager opened up with, we heard the feedback that we received in the January 3rd special meeting on this. You will find one attachment that is titled Surtax 4 Commission Suggestions. That was where we tried to document everything that we heard you speaking about that you may want to come back in this meeting and talk to in more detail. So the top page of that is a list of all those items. Where we could, we came up with a detail sheet. For many of them, we didn't know the numbers, so we filled in what we could and gave you that for your use today. The other new attachment for this special meeting is the one that is entitled Surtax 4, Price First 5 Years. And that is where we heard your desire in the last meeting to fund price earlier. And so we said, what would that look like? Could we even do that? So we went and shifted things around and said, okay, this would give us a plan where we could fund in the first 5 years, but we did have to move some things out. We also moved about $10.5 million from Surtax 4 into Surtax 3 by reprojecting the remaining years in Surtax 3. And we said we think we could afford to fund that much in Surtax 3. The other changes, I don't know if we want to go through them one by one. They are all highlighted on the spreadsheet with the tan color where we made a change. So you can see the far right column. And again, I'm looking at the Surtax 4 Price First 5 Years spreadsheet. So the far right column, you can see anything. The first one is the 1.1. All of those in that column are ones that we moved from Surtax 4 into Surtax 3 and said, hey, we think we can fund these a little bit earlier and get them off the burden in Surtax 4. The other ones I will run through that we made changes to the timing of them. So the ones that were moved from the first 5 years to the second 5 years were land purchases for future park locations, second and third splash pad, additional baseball fields, War Mineral Springs Park Master Plan implementation, additional boat launches throughout the city, band shell outdoor amphitheater, license plate reader upgrade, mobile command replacement, driving track improvement, public safety complex classrooms, solid waste transfer station, traffic signal infrastructure upgrades, and Tropicare Boulevard pedestrian and bikeways. Now, the ones that we in this list moved from the first 5-year period to the third 5-year were additional outdoor basketball courts and road rehabilitation program. Now, there are also 2 that we moved from the second 5 years to the third, and those were road rehabilitation program, traffic signal infrastructure upgrades, and then there were 3 that we moved to alternative funding, and those were water control structure program. So I don't know if you want me to go through any more detail of that, but that's a summarization of the changes we made to say how do we put price in the first 5 years.
Okay. We got commissioner questions. Commissioner Luke.
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate the hard work that staff has done trying to get price in that first section of it. So it meets what a lot of complaints have been coming in or concern coming in from the citizens. So it does address that without having to wait because we're complying with the county's wishes. So thank you very much for doing so. I will ask 2 questions. We as a board have talked about a dog park out east. Is that considered within additional parks? Because I thought the park was defining basketball and things like that, so.
Good morning. Sandy Funheller, Parks and Recreation Director. For the second site for the dog park, that was being considered at the Italy Avenue parcel.
Okay, so it's configured into the Italy one, okay.
There's
Thank
been
you.
discussion about it, but it has not, there's not a CIP specifically for that location. That was just a potential spot for it.
Okay, but when we were, it's plugged in here so that we could use the money for it,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
That's what I'm trying to get to, because it needs to be in there if it's not, in case we get a big pot of money. All right, and the second one is along the same line. It said the one was the commissioner's suggestions. I had suggested the parking and sprucing up of 41, those angle parkings on 41, and I see it didn't make it to the list.
So we didn't make any changes to the original list unless there was a consensus in the first meeting. So we just captured them on this one for you to consider today.
I brought it up in the last meeting, and I also brought it up in the one-on-ones after the last meeting that we had. So that, to me, that angle parking and getting 41 looking attractive for our citizens and anybody who comes to the city. We've got Toledo Blade and Sumter we're so proud of. We talk about these avenues coming in from 75, and then they arrive at 41. So I think 41 needs some attention to it. So personally, I would like to see that on that list so that if we do want to use surtax for it, we can. It was there. There was money there. And then it kept getting picked away and ended up out on Tropicare Path, then ended up on Tropicare Repave. And so we have just dwindled down on those projects. But I think it needs to be done. It needs to be added just in case it could happen. Thank you.
Commissioner McDowell?
Yeah, I have a couple questions, and then I have a couple comments. With this document that's going to be going to the county, are we locked in with the dates? Like, for example, we have replacing ambulances scheduled for 2035 to 2039. What if we need them in the first 5 years? Are we locked in that, surtax says we can't get those replacements, or we can't do this until this date? Can we move it up ahead, or can we move it back? How does that work this time?
Right, we can adjust these as we go. Plans will change, things will occur. We're obviously planning for a long period of time here. We can adjust this plan as we go. Yes, we could move those up. We'll only be limited by the revenue projected in that.
Fantastic. I just wanted to make sure that that did not change between the first time and this time, so I appreciate that confirmation. So when I hear that these are a priority, are they being sent to Sarasota County as this is priority 1, this is priority 2? It's more of this is our list?
Yes.
It's not prioritized.
Correct. It makes the list or it doesn't.
But if we have a future project that doesn't fit in this list neatly with a nice pretty bow, we can't do it with surtax?
No, we can adjust the plan as we go.
Okay. Fantastic. So I also see, if you look at item like 9, 10, 11, and 12, they have 0 surtax funding. So why are we including it on this list?
Those were in the original request by the directors. And as we were balancing the 5-year periods, those were moved out to the alternative funding column.
No? Some of them,
Okay, they were either unfunded or we said we got to find another, an unfunded in surtax, meaning it doesn't mean you can't do them with another revenue source.
okay, so for example, 9 and 10, it has zeros across the board and no alternative funding source. So does that mean it's going to be removed from the list that we're going to be sending to Sarasota County?
Correct.
So this will be removed?
Yes.
Okay, and if it has an alternative funding source, that also means it's going to be removed prior to going to Sarasota County?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I don't know if you want comment time now, Mayor, or if you just want question time.
Go ahead, let's get through it.
I appreciate everything that staff has done, working with the city manager to get these surtax projects in order. There are many things on this list that I don't feel are priority for surtax funding. To me, surtax money should be for those absolute needs of the city. Price Boulevard, water control structures, bridges, fire trucks, the shoot house. The list is long, but there's a lot of fluffiness to this. And I am just concerned with those few fluffy things in here that people may be upset and just say no. To me, surtax is for infrastructure, not for putting up aesthetics, sorry, Commissioner Luke, along 41. Yes, it's important, but it's not surtax important. To me, it rises above the aesthetics on 41 is more, this needs to be put in the budget because it's kind of a one-time deal. And I know that we probably all have 5 differing opinions on what surtax dollars are used for. And I knew that going into this conversation, but I just want it shared. I am looking for those high dollar marks, those high dollar things that are required to be done long before the aesthetics on 41, when we have a water control structure or bridge that's failing. And we need to use that kind of money. So with that said, I look forward to the rest of the discussion and the conversation. But that's where I'm standing on these surtax priorities that aren't really priorities. Thank you.
Commissioner Langdon, or Vice Mayor Langdon, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Wow, this is indeed a banner day. I really need to echo Commissioner McDowell's comments.
Twice in 2 meetings.
Yeah, 2 consecutive meetings. In the past, we've used a lot of surtax money for amenities. That's terrific. But in the meantime, we have such compelling infrastructure needs that I am, in particular, am very concerned that we removed our water structure program to alternative funding. And when I look at the potential sources of that alternative funding, very risky. So I, for one, really would want to see a continuation of the current program through surtax. And then if we are able to get alternative funding, we can ramp that program up. Because in my mind, the one wear and the one design a year is not sufficient at that level. I mean, the need is just so overwhelming. And then our bridges probably, in my mind, follow very closely after that. And as much as I'd love to see the beautification of 41, I do agree. I think it's not a big dollar item. I think we could find that money somewhere else. As much as I would love to have a dog park out east there are just so many other things that we really need to have before we invest in that kind of an amenity. So I don't know if we should try for a vote on this, but I really would want to see the water structures at the, the current level, surtax 3 level in surtax 4. And then if we can get more funding, we can accelerate that program. I'm very uncomfortable removing it.
Commissioner White?
Yes, thanks. So just to clarify that things were shuffled around to accommodate the phase 1 of Price Boulevard. Is that correct? So that figure there, the 51.890, that is what it would be funded at, which is, looking at this, it would be fully funded in those first years, correct? Okay, just want to clarify that. And then the Tropicare Boulevard pedestrian bicycle path was, I don't know if it was moved, but it's coming on in 30 to 34. Is that correct? That it's number 51. It's not being funded with the first
Correct.
4 years. Okay, right, okay. And that's it. Thank you.
That's it? That's all
That's
you
it,
have?
yeah.
All right, now I had just a couple questions and then we'll go into second round because I've got some more interest from previous commissioners. By sending this priority list, it's just basically stating that these are our wish lists that we want to use surtax money for in the future if need be. What we're going to rely on is each budget season going through to where if we wanted to ramp up the weirs this year and we have surtax money, we can go ahead and budget for that, even though it may or may not be on this list. We still pick and choose what we want to use our monies for each budget season. This is just showing the populace out there what we're gearing for the future. So nothing is written in stone. Everything is adjustable. And just because it's on this list doesn't mean that we're getting it. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, because when it comes down to brass taxes, it's going to be the budget scenario that's going to fund these projects going forward. Okay, that's all I had. Commissioner McDowell.
Yeah, there's one on here that I feel needs to completely be removed, and that's item number 25, the additional boat launches throughout the city. I know it's not going to be funded until 2030 through 2039 through surtax. But guys, we've had multiple conversations about these boat launches, and we've had just recently a conversation about possibly banning boats in the canals. So back in 2019, the commission did not have it a priority to put boat launches anywhere in the city, additional boat launches. So I don't understand why this is even here when we took no action in 2019 regarding the boat launches, and now all of a sudden it's back in there.
Well, Commissioner McDowell, the list that we submitted that had the boat launches included in it was the one that we provided. Unless we got direction to remove it, we didn't remove it. And if you want it removed today, all you have to do is get the consensus, and it frees up money to do other things in other ways. So
I absolutely agree. And I will admit that when we had this discussion in January, I knew we were going to have other conversations and one-on-ones. And so my bad that I didn't look at the list so carefully compared to today. Today, to me, is like the final thing, and you're submitting it to Sarasota County. So that's why I looked at it more closely. I was just listening to the conversation in January, offering input where I felt was necessary, knowing things would be changing. So that's why now I'm looking at it much closer. There's a couple of things with Warm Mineral Springs that we approved the master plan for Warm Mineral Springs, and it included a band shell amphitheater, and it included a observation deck. But I'm looking at this and the band shell is someplace else. I don't quite know where. And the observation deck is going to be at Myakkahatchee Creek. Are we talking about putting in two? I just am.
Sandy Funheller, Parks and Rec Director. First, to address the boat ramps, that came from our master plan that was approved by commission. So that's why you see it in there. We went back through to make sure that we were capturing everything that at the time commission wanted us to pursue as far as future park projects. The overlook that you're talking about, that is repairing the existing one at the environmental park. There's also one that's planned in the Warm Mineral Springs future phases. That was part of that original concept, was that high tower there. So those are two different things.
We have an overlook at Myakkahatchee Creek?
Yeah, not as tall,
Right.
but it is there. It's right off the main parking lot.
Is that the one that just kind of looks over the water, or is
That is
it
it.
height?
That is it.
The one that looks over the
Yes.
water? Okay. All right. There's quite a few things, and I know, Miss Sandy, it's going to appear that I'm picking on parks, and that's not my intent. Parks, I agree 1,000,000% are an important part of our city. But when I see, based on citizen feedback, that it's a low need or a low urgency, and it's in the second tranche of the 5 years, I have to wonder why. If it's a low need and a low urgency, I have to wonder, why is it in here? And I get it.
Yeah, a lot of them are probably from the master plan. And since that was an approved, adopted document by city commission, we were trying to make sure we were following the items that were in there and addressing them.
So when you're saying low urgency, low priority, whatever, on this sheet, it is from the master plan that was approved, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 years ago. It's not based on citizen input within the past year or so.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. We captured all
makes a
that, and
difference.
then we based our evaluation on today, on the current situation.
Okay. City manager, did this get any feedback from the citizens prior to us sending it to Sarasota County? Did we put out like a community, hey, we want your feedback on surtax projects?
Well, we haven't sent anything to Sarasota County yet. That's the purpose of what we're doing here today.
I know. Did we ask the citizens for their feedback prior to sending this to Sarasota County?
I don't believe we posted this.
So we had the citizen requests that we included in the first meeting, where we had those at the
Okay.
end, where these are citizen submissions.
Okay,
Right.
that's right.
Their
Yes.
projects, but not their
Yes.
actual feedback on the proposed ranking that you're looking at in front of you.
We
Excellent.
also did 3 or 4 community outreach meetings about it, where we talked about, please submit your requests and what questions do you have.
I just wanted that on the record. Thank you so much. I think at this time, Mayor, I can yield the floor and let others have their second round.
Commissioner Luke.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I view surtax as the plus. I mean, we have taxation that comes in that we are supposed to keep our city running on. And I totally agree with the statements that the mayor made. This is a wish list for those extra monies that come in to plan, to take care of your infrastructure on surtax, I think is mispointed. That needs to be done definitely within like the program that we have currently. So you are taking care of it, because that is why taxes are paid to the city, is to take care of those basic services. This is the fluff that does come in and take care of those extra things. You can ramp up the programs for infrastructure. You can put in more to parks, because all of it, you're adding those amenities to the city, because you don't know what these are going to bring. So I see it in kind of a reverse order. But I totally agree with Mayor. This is the wish list. Doesn't mean that there's one that's going to be over the other. It's done exactly as he stated at budget time. But to me, I put a lot of value of whether the citizens vote for it or not. And prime example is the aquatic center. That was on the list for the surtax way back in the last one. So they approved by voting for that referendum for a pool and aquatic center. So to me, putting everything in that we might want to use it for them to give their okay and their approval means a lot to me. That is why I think anything that we wish to use the monies for needs to be put on it. I do need to ask though, because we do have a strong portion of this going to our infrastructure. The city manager's recommendation is heavy into the infrastructure. We are still going to continue with our Prep 1, Build 1 project, correct?
To my knowledge, yes, and we could have someone from Public Works speak to that.
He's reading his emails.
I believe that is still the plan, yes.
Yeah, he gave the one-on-one back there.
Okay, so we are continuing with that program. That program was not done away with. And this heavy leaning toward the infrastructure in the city manager's recommendation is over and above what we're doing currently.
My understanding of it is it was to take all the needs and go ahead and meet them at one time, rather than over 50 years or whatever the schedule is with one per year. Yeah, so this would take them all and bring them up to where they need to be.
And to clarify, other funding can be going out for bond, can be, exactly. So we could continue with this pattern. We could look at surtax for extra funding, plus we could go out and get a bond, loan, whatever, however these other monies, alternative monies are done. All right. Thank you very much.
Commissioner White.
Yes, I appreciate Mayor bringing up the fact that this is something that can be adjusted as we go through the years, and that this is not written in stone. So again, I like you brought that up. And to echo what Commissioner Luke said, I don't like using the word fluff, but when the surtax was first proposed in '89, I think this when it was first passed, the big sell was this was going to pay for those amenities that we have a difficult time finding funding for, because we have to take care of the nuts and bolts. And things like, yes, the water control structures, yes, it's very important, but if this is talking about replacement of a water control structure, that means, we have to take care of that, yes, through our taxes. And isn't that what we talked about, R&R? Isn't that what getting that going? Because yes, you just can't put something and expect it's going to last forever. And of course, we've found that out, that all those structures that were put in place by general development are at the end of their lifespan. So, as responsible citizens, we have to figure out how to pay for that. Just like when you buy a car, you have to figure in maintenance and pay for that, and not think it's going to run on its, well, some people do, but run by itself forever. So to have this funding available for amenities, Price Boulevard is a large chunk of this, and that is something that should have come out of other funding. It's not, obviously, it didn't. So that, we unfortunately have to use a big chunk of this money for that. But, I agree that we have to keep some of the things in there that people wanted to see. And again, thank you for bringing up the fact that this was a master plan that was done a long time ago too. But if people wanted to see it, they wanted to see it. And I think that these things should stay in there. I do agree with Commissioner McDowell about the boat ramps, though. I would like to review that, or, look back on that, because we talked about possibly banning boats, but even if we don't, I don't know if that's a real big need to have boat ramps in the city now. So,
But then again, down the road, it
down
may
the
be,
road, you're right,
it's still on the list and
you're
it's,
right.
doesn't have to be put in
Yeah,
there.
I guess that some of the things I was thinking about is like where would people want to put in a boat that they can actually get somewhere and not just go between, water
Well, what
control
we-
structures, and then, okay, then that lasts for a while, and then you get tired of that and you say, okay, let's just trailer it and go someplace where we can actually go on a boat. Yeah,
But again, we don't know what's going on 5 to 10 years down the road either. And
Right.
what's come in and what's been
right.
developed.
But like you
and-
said, this is not written in stone.
No, you don't have to do it.
If
no.
it comes that it's not feasible, it's not reasonable, then boop, it comes off the list, right?
Sure.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Commissioner McDowell and then Vice Mayor, and then we'll be wrapping this up.
So last time we met and talked about surtax, Price Boulevard was a huge, huge conversation up here. And we were trying to figure out ways to come up with alternative funding, possibly using surtax as the priority. If we're going to focus on surtax as the priority for Price Boulevard, that means that it won't be completed until 2025 to 2029. That's about 7 years from now. That is an awfully long time. And we had talked about possibly going to a referendum. We know we cannot do a referendum in November, but we had talked about possibly doing a referendum in August to see if the voters want to either take out a SIB loan, a bond. We had conversation about finding alternatives to fund Price Boulevard, because we both know in 9 years, $51,000 is not going to be enough. I don't even think it's enough by today's standards. So I was wondering whatever happened with that conversation regarding Price Boulevard, and then I want to go on to the water control structures.
So the price of Price is $51 million. And we do believe that it will go up because that estimate was based on prices in a study that was done prior to the current economic condition. Now, according to all of our sources that we've spoken to at the county, including the administrator and everyone else, they are, I'm not sure if disallowing, but they are highly discouraging any other referendum item to be put on any special election any time sooner than we have projected. The luxury of the surtax that we have that we're talking about today is truly a luxury. Everyone doesn't have this surtax in order to pay for infrastructure needs, which we desperately need. But there will be a point in the very near future, and that will be based upon the decision of the board and with the guidance of the staff and the team to put a referendum for the public to vote on in the very near future. It cannot be avoided based on the needs of the city and how we're moving forward.
And City Manager, I appreciate that update. I am concerned because there is a bill going through the legislature right now that's trying to limit referendums for revenue producing referendums to be only held in November of like an even year for like state elections or federal elections. And if that passes, we won't be able to go to referendum on anything until 2024 now, which is another 2 years out. And that's even before this new surtax comes in. So I am extremely concerned that we do not have a financial plan in place that's more concrete. It's kind of, well, we could do this or we could do that. I think if we're going to come up with a plan, we need to come up with a plan that's a little bit more solidified, not only for Price Boulevard, but for these water control structures and these alternative funding sources for the water control structures. I appreciate that, but we also need to put something in surtax because this is the desire to have it be used for surtax funding on the list. If we don't have it on the list, because we were told it would be removed prior to it going to the county, we need to put it on the list. At least have it on the list so that way then it's an option. Put some money in there.
Wait, I'm confused, Commissioner. Did you earlier say you wanted us to remove the items off the list because they were zero balance, and now you're saying you want them on the list because there's no other plan for them?
No, when I asked the question, if it has a zero balance, Ms. Kim said that it will be removed from the list prior to going to the county.
Correct.
So that's saying item number 46, the water control structure program, has zero in it. She also said alternative funding would be removed from the list prior to going to the county. I am saying we need to put it back on the list. So put some money into it, put it back on the list
Oh, I missed to put money back into it part.
So
so that it can be on the list.
I don't know as you need money designated to it, but you just need it on the list.
well, we do have $5.7 million in the last 5 years, the last from 35 to 39 that we have not allocated. So we can put that to water control structures if that's your direction.
Can I ask for clarification on this topic too? Because we're viewing this, at least I am viewing this, as the wish list. And that these are the potential of where monies can go to. But at the budget time, we assign money or we don't, depending upon what the priority is at that point in time. This is not a ranking of which one's more important. This is just sending to the county what we would like to spend our surtax money on over the next 15 years. So I'm not understanding why you have to have a designated amount of money in something in order for it to go to the county.
So the point of the list is we're saying, hey, citizens, right now today, if this passes and these are projected revenues, here's how we plan to spend it today. This is our best plan today. Obviously, it's a long period of years. It's going to have to be adjusted. We're not going to fund something in 10 years that doesn't make sense anymore just because it was on here. But to me, this list is today, if this were to pass and we got all this money, this is how we would spend it. So if we have something with a zero, it's not, in my mind, it's not relevant to that list. We didn't ask the county that question. I've never seen in the last one us submit a zero. Doesn't mean we couldn't, and we can certainly ask the county that question. But again, this is it made the list or it didn't with some funding. Again, we can shift around. We can move that $5 million. We left that $5 million for you to allocate. So today, anything on this list that you don't like, if you want to just bring it up and do a consensus, we're going to remove it right here while we're working. And then we need to leave this meeting with a balanced list, utilizing every dollar. So the fault, if you ended up not using that $5 million, of course, we would add it to price because we know there'll be some overages there. But you do have that to allocate. You can remove anything you want. We're going to update the spreadsheet as we go, and we're going to hopefully leave here with a balanced spreadsheet using every dollar that we're projecting today. The revenue, again, they're projections for 15 years or more. So they're going to even adjust as we go.
Now, let me ask a question, though. If you got zero balance in the water control structures, just leave it on the list and let it be, and then down the road, when we do our budgets, we can put money into there. Yeah, we're showing projected zero at today because we haven't done our budget yet. So by taking it off the list, I understand what you're trying to do, but leave it with the zero in there. This way we can add to it in the future. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And then your numbers are still the same. It's not hurting anything by having it on the list with a zero balance. Correct?
I will,
I mean, numbers wise to the county, it's like we wanna, it's on the list to be done. And then, going forward, we can allocate money into it.
So we've heard it both ways, Mr. Mayor. If you want to leave it on the list with a zero balance, we will make that work and leave it there. If you vote and say you want to take anything with a zero balance off the list, because it has a zero balance, which I thought was the premise of the origin of the conversation, we will take it off the list. But just tell us the direction you want, and that's what we will follow.
To me, what makes sense is rather than picking and choosing to take stuff off of the list, you have a larger list for the future moving forward to where if it becomes a need down the road, it's still on the list. We do not have to fund it, but it's just, it's there in case we do, I think y'all did a great job on putting this together. And going forward, I think we have a broader perspective on what this city may need in the future or may not need, and we fund it accordingly on each budget session.
And also, I mean, the stuff that staff came up with was more money than what we plan on getting in 15 years. So if you can't have that so-called parking list with the zero, to me, that's fruitless. I mean, you can't say we've only got this X amount and we're going to plan, all these things and stick to that plan. That's a budget for 15 years, and that's illogical. But to have that parking with the zeros, you might end up getting money from some other direction that takes care of the water structures. And then you've got this free money, so you still need these parking lot zero things, so you can apply it to them. I'm in agreement with the mayor. I think it needs to have those listed. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Langdon, and then we'll be wrapping this up.
Yeah.
We can't keep beating it down.
Yeah, I mean, boy, I've been listening carefully to what everyone has said, and I don't know, I guess I'm old school. We're estimating a certain budget number for surtax, and the process has some discipline in it, in that we identify priority projects up to the anticipated amount of that fund. So, I mean, I agree that there might be some projects that we keep in our back pocket, that if, we get a windfall and we wind up finding funding for one of these things and it frees up surtax, woohoo, then we get to take that list out of our back pocket. But I think it's important, I think it's really important for our public that they understand that there's a limit to the money, there's a limit to the list. We've done our best shot of prioritizing projects to the amount that we anticipate getting. Stuff changes, but I think we need to make the tough decisions today. We can keep a secondary list off the submitted list of things we'd love to have, but that today fall outside of the surtax project. But personally, for me, I think sending in a long list with projects that for whatever reason we felt weren't important enough to prioritize today, to me, shows a lack of discipline in our thinking, and I don't like it. So I really want us to make the hard decisions. And I'm very happy with the work that staff has done. I think you've done a really, really good job of identifying the important projects. My one concern is with those water control projects. And if we submit our surtax list and it's not on the list, Mr. Speaks, when we go through budget, I want to see the 1 and 1 in your budget, okay? Because to say, oh, if we have a referendum, or oh, if we get this grant, not good enough for the water control structures. I want to see money to at least cover the 1 and 1. I'd be a lot more comfortable having it here in surtax because that's how we've funded it in the past, and the other alternative funding sources seem very iffy and risky to me. So, Mayor, I'd really like to either get a vote if we don't think we have a consensus on keeping the water structures on the surtax list with money allocated to it. And if that means something else has to come off, then let's identify today what comes off. And we can keep our 0-0 list in our back pocket for a windfall, but those water structures have got to be covered. I'm just not comfortable not covering them.
Mayor, I know you want to wrap it up.
No, you're the last one, and
Thank you.
go ahead.
If today's conversation shows anything, is we have a huge need for financial revenues to come in to take care of the long, daunting list of things that the city is responsible for doing. And I am afraid that if we do not put water control structures and bridges on this list, the citizen, it's an optics thing. The citizens will read this and go, what were they thinking? They want a bond referendum, they want a loan, they want this for water control structures and bridges, but it's not even on the list to the county for surtax funding. It's sending a mixed message that I could never support. If we put it on the list, it's showing that, yes, this is a priority, yes, this is a need, and yes, we will be using surtax funding for these water control structures and for these bridges. And I know that the first conversation back in January, there was some funding and things had to get mixed around and moved around to be able to do Price Boulevard by 2030. And I'm grateful for that, but we really need to put some money and add it to the list for these water control structures and bridges. So that way then future commissions will be able to do this and the voters today will be able to vote yes on this. So Mayor, thank you very much, and I am done.
I do have one question that just came to my mind real quick. With the surtax funding, and this is probably for you, Mr. Speaks, with the surtax funding, isn't it for new projects and we cannot use it for renovations of the water control structures or the bridges? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm asking that question.
Chuck Speak, Interim Public Works Director. The surtax can be used for both the rehabilitation or the replacement of.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I had heard over the years that it was new projects only, and we had discussed the water control structures on being rehabbed, and it may not possibly been able to be used for it. And that wasn't you I was talking to, so.
We've used it in the past for both bridge rehabilitation and water control structures.
Okay, well, that's good to know then. Thank you very much.
If I can just throw something out quickly.
Sure.
Price Boulevard was brought up and the plan going forward, just so you know, when we bring back the mobility fees to present to the commission, you will see Price Boulevard within those fees. So those costs are captured in our mobility fee study. So we do have a plan. The plan it will be presented to you. And there will be some options that come with that for you to look at. But we are thinking forward for that project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I've got just two things. One of them is about price. Because there is things coming through the mobility fee and stuff like that. Is it possible that we can start with this plan? Because, this commission just was all about price. And so staff listened to what this commission was talking and made it the #1 priority to get funding. So could we start this plan and then swing either to a referendum or the mobility fee? I mean, can we switch gears of where the financing comes?
And that may be a finance question. I don't see a problem with that. The surtax, push to surtax would get your project started.
Right.
Understanding mobility fees are not going to, that's a long-term plan.
Mhm.
You're not going to get all that money at once. So we could certainly shift over the financing, I would believe, to other areas
Okay.
as we were able.
All right, because that's what I thought. This at least would get it started, and then you might want to go out for a referendum for water structures and price and utilize it. So this would at least get it going. And then my other one was, if we're talking about putting the water structure in and you're wanting monies, I think everybody's in agreement of removing the boat ramps on 25, so just use the money for the boat ramps for the water structure, and that way you've got funds for them.
All right, City Manager, your light is on.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did get confirmation from the county that we are not to submit any line items with a zero balance in it, and I believe that was the direction that Director Williams said. Any line item with a zero balance will be removed before it is sent to the county for consideration. So there will not be any zero line item balances submitted.
All right. Moving on, any public comments, City Clerk? Okay. I'll request a motion, if you want to include, whatever needs to be included into the changing of this document, moving forward.
Mayor, I'll make a couple motions if that's
Okay.
okay.
I
Make
didn't
it
hear
that
who
way,
was
then it'll
saying
be
it.
clean and we can vote our conscience on each individual line item as opposed to grouping it all together and taking a risk it's not going to pass. I'll make a motion, Mayor. I got to just look for the item number. Hang on one second. I'll make a motion to remove line item number 25, the additional boat launches throughout the city from the list and reallocate I'm going to stop there. Remove the boat launches from the list.
I have a motion on the floor to remove line item 129, was it?
No, line number 25, additional
Oh,
boat
line
launches.
25, for the boat ramps, made by Commissioner McDowell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Vice Mayor Langdon. Anything to that?
No,
Please
Mayor,
vote.
thank you.
I would rather have seen it, the money's allocated over to the water structure.
I'm getting there, Mayor. I'm sorry, Commissioner. That's why I was
I would have
doing
liked to
one.
seen it in one fell swoop instead of piecemealing. All right, thank you.
And that passes 5-0.
I have another motion, Mayor, if you would like.
Go right ahead.
I'll make a motion to reallocate the $0.75 million that was in line 25 to be reallocated to the water control structures on line 46 and the bridge, I'm looking for the bridge number. Bridge Rehabilitation and Repair Program number 40.
Yeah, I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner McDowell. Would you please repeat that? Because I ran out of ink.
Reallocate the $0.75 million from line 25 to line number 40, which is Bridge Rehabilitation and Repair, and line 46, which is Water Control Structure Program, as staff deems necessary.
Second.
And I have a second from Vice Mayor Langdon. Anything to that? Please vote. And that passes 5-0.
There's one more, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Hang on one second.
Here, into water control structure.
There is, and I have to ask staff a question before I do the motion, if you don't mind.
Sure.
There's a balance, if you look on page 8 in surtax, the third column, there's approximately $5 million that's left over. Do we need to reallocate that, or is that something you're going to do automatically?
Yes, we would like to leave here today with everything
The
allocated.
5 million?
Mhm.
All right, so we have, and we haven't discussed it yet, Mayor, but there's a long list of 5, 6 items, maybe 7, that we said, hey, we'd like to see surtax money used for these. One of them was the West Villages Development Center, River Road Sports Complex, Legacy Trailhead, Price Boulevard Phase 3, a welcome sign, and then angle parking that Commissioner Luke had mentioned. And I also, at the last meeting, found out that we can use surtax funding to purchase property for affordable housing. And maybe we could take that balance and have them reallocate it for those 6 items that didn't make the list that we did talk about on January 3rd.
Well, that would be up to the will of the board.
Exactly, and that's why I wanted to have that as a separate conversation. Affordable housing, if you'll remember, I asked the question, can we use money, surtax money for affordable housing? I received a response that said yes. And as long as it's a land acquisition for residential housing project with at least 30% of the units to be for affordable housing. So I don't know if city manager can forward that to the rest of you for your indulgence at another time, but if we have 6, 7 items, maybe we can just reallocate that almost $5 million among those 7 items.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I believe the West Village Service Center was supposed to be complete in this surtax, correct? If I remember the discussion that was going on, it would be complete before we even collect any monies from this amount, or from this year's surtax, if I remember correct.
I apologize, I didn't hear the full question.
She asked about the West Villages Development Services Center and whether or not it was going to be complete in surtax 3 as opposed to it being a commission suggestion for surtax 4. There's a $2 million price tag that I'm looking at.
Good morning, Jason Yarborough, Assistant City Manager. So under the post-annexation agreement, once that property is platted, the land was to be conveyed within 6 months, and then design within 2 years after that, and then construction started within a year after that, and then construction completed within 2 years after the start. So that's like a 3 to 5 year time frame. So that would kind of push out past, if I'm not mistaken, into this current, or into the proposed surtax discussion. I think we'll be on that 3 to 5 year time frame.
Okay, because last I knew, we only needed 2 more million or something like that in order to complete it.
Correct.
And so, I mean, I don't mind leaving it there and putting money to it, because if it's done before we even collect anything in '24, I have no problem putting a little bit to it, but I wouldn't put too much to it.
Gotcha.
And it's the same thing with the sports complex. Sounds like that's met a hitch. So I would put just a small amount there also. But putting monies to all the items that she named, I think is a good idea so that they stay listed. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
You want a motion?
absolutely.
Ms. Kim, do you have your calculator real quick? Or somebody? What is the difference, the balance between the 125 million and the 119 million? What is that exact amount? I'm sorry. 5.799. Thank you, ma'am. 5.79 million. And I don't know what this sheet is called, that you guys have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The West Villages Development Center, River Road Sports Complex, that list, what is that list called? Can we give it a title for
It's
the
called
motion?
commission suggestions.
Mission suggestions? All right, Mayor, thank you. I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion, Mayor, to reallocate the $5.79 million in surtax for fiscal year 35 through 39 to be reallocated among the 5 commission suggestions outlined in the backup material, adding angle parking on 41 and affordable housing acquisition, property acquisition.
I have a motion on the floor to reallocate $5.7 million from the years 35 to 39, titled The 5 Commission Suggestions, to include the angle parking and purchasing of property for affordable housing. Did I catch that?
Very
City
good, thank
Clerk?
you.
Close. And that was seconded by Commissioner Luke. Please, anything to that?
Yeah, I do. Just to clarify, it's only those things she talked, not everything on this list.
Correct.
The
Okay.
5 things on the commission suggestions, adding angle parking on 41 and affordable housing property acquisition.
He hasn't got to the final.
Okay, because there's 6 things on this list. So
I only see 5.
So actually, the list that we have, which should have been attached to the document, has, which is labeled commission suggestions, has 6 items on it. It has the West Villages Development Center, the River Road Regional Park Sports Complex, the Warm Mineral Spring Legacy Trail Extension Trailhead, Price Boulevard Widening Phase 3, Welcome Sign, which is the US 41 at the boundary. And number 6 is land in connection with affordable housing. So adding the angle parking would be number 7 to this list.
I didn't, my list, I don't know where I got it from, only had 5, not knowing affordable housing was already included. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we wish to rephrase that motion then, City Clerk?
Okay. You ready?
You would pull your second, Commissioner?
I'll pull my second for restatement.
Okay. Yes?
I'll make a motion, Mayor, to have staff reallocate the 5 points.
Okay.
I heard something. I thought I needed to stop. Okay. To reallocate the $5.79 million in surtax fiscal year 35 to 39 to be equally distributed between the commission suggestions 1 through 6, and to add angle parking along 41.
Second.
Okay. Now, did that include the affordable housing within those 6? Okay. Just double checking. I have a motion on the floor to reallocate $5.7 million from fiscal year 35 to 39 to do the 1 through 6 commission suggestions, and to include the angle parking on US 41. That was made by Commissioner McDowell and seconded by Commissioner Luke. Anything to that?
may I speak on that?
Sure.
I'm feeling a little hijacked by the affordable housing. It's feeling like a last minute ad, and we really haven't had time to discuss it. We talked about affordable housing at an earlier meeting, and city manager brought up the fact that we don't have a policy, we don't have a plan. There's really a lot to figure out there. And we really have not had an opportunity to discuss it, although I understand it will be coming on our agenda in the future. So I really feel the need to express my displeasure at these sort of last minute tack-ons to motions when we really haven't had enough time to talk it through and think it through as a board. So I'm finding myself in the position of being very supportive of the rest of the motion, but not tacking on affordable housing to it. And if it's not changed, I'll have to vote no because of that. I'm really displeased by that.
May I speak to that, Mayor?
Go ahead.
Commissioner Langdon, I am surprised.
Vice Mayor
I'm sorry,
Langdon.
I apologize. I'm just so used to that. I do apologize. No disrespect intended. In the backup material, and I just pulled it up, I must have been using a older version from maybe January. It does say land in connection with affordable housing. There's a 0 thing in the backup material on surtax for commission suggestions. I remember distinctly because I asked the question, can we use surtax funds for affordable housing? And they said they would get back to us. I received the email that said, yes, we can. And I sure hope the city manager will forward it to all of you, but it is in the backup material showing land in connection with affordable housing. And like it's been stated many times in the past during today's conversation, everything will be finalized at budget time. This is just another wish list to give the next 15 years future commission to be able to purchase property for affordable housing.
Well, let's keep it on the list, off the list, because I learned years ago, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. So I don't know, I was sort of looking toward city manager. Did you want to speak?
I was just going to ask that. Thank you.
I'm helping out.
Thank you. I was just going to say that, yes, we did confirm that the funding could be used for land for affordable housing. And I think the staff confirmed that pretty quickly after the last meeting. But the other point, I think, dives into a deeper point, which is the affordable housing conversation. And again, I've only been here a short period of time, is one that is relatively unfinished and unflushed throughout this city. And we do need to come up with a policy. We do need to come up with practice and procedures and guidelines that will help our staff make sure that affordable housing is occurring in this city at the rate that this board decides. So just making sure that we don't, mix in the two together. Yes, the surtax can be used for the land for affordable housing, but just like in your earlier conversations, it can be used for the visual and cosmetics improvements along 41 as well. But that is a choice that you are having to make as to, how you want to spend it. The overall purpose and point that staff is making is that we are committed to making sure that we create a policy going forward on how to make sure affordable housing is implemented in the proper manner within the city.
Thank you, sir.
Can I speak to it also? There's a lot that goes into affordable housing, and there are laws right now that you can, without a comp change, you can make property zoned for affordable housing. So there's a lot of tools in the toolbox currently. Our ordinance to purchase property, I believe, has affordable housing listed in it as well as conservation. We haven't finished the discussion of what we're doing with all of those lots and I'm not going to say there's tons of them, but I think it was 19 lots. We have the ability to designate those lots for affordable housing. So there's still discussion to be had to finalize what we're going to be doing with it. I don't mind leaving this in because we don't know what is going to come about in 15 years' time. And we may find ourselves needing, for I can't foresee the city owning affordable housing, but at some point, we may want to partner with somebody and provide the land in order to keep the cost down, because we don't know what the future brings. So I don't mind it staying on there with a small amount designated to it, so that in future years, if push comes to shove, we have the ability to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and the one thing about the affordable housing is the way that I look at it too, is if we have a little bit of funding in there, may be able to purchase a quadrant of land, rezone it and turn it into a possible tiny home community down the road in a partnership with others. So, with veterans and people, or, workforce housing, small people, and, without the means to make it happen. So I'm calling the question, please vote. And that passes 4-1 with Vice Mayor Langdon dissenting. Vice Mayor Langdon, for reasons stated, or you want?
For reasons stated, affordable housing is a vitally important aspect of our city planning. I think we are all committed to making sure that we have a number of different strategies for ensuring that people can afford to live here. But it's a big topic, and it deserves to be handled in a very holistic way, and this is not it. So I felt compelled to vote no.
Thank you.
Mayor, I got one more for you.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to direct the city manager to send the surtax 4 price first 5 years list to the county with the changes made by previous motions.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor to direct the city manager to send the first price list to the county with the changes. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, so today you're just voting on the list of the items itself. This will come back to you on February 22nd for your official regular meeting in order
Okay,
to.
then basically you've got everything you need then already. So you're good to go on all the suggestions that we needed, and then you'll bring it back, we'll recoup, and then we'll go ahead and
that'll be it.
We'll make the decision to send it forward.
Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the surtax 4 projects with the consensus that we have made for changes.
That's what I was looking for to
Right.
finalize. I have a motion on the floor to approve the surtax 4 project list with changes made by Commissioner Luke. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Vice Mayor Langdon. Please vote anything to that, ladies?
No, sir.
Please vote. And that passes 5-0. Thank you very, very much for all your hard work and efforts and answering questions up here with all of our confusion and everything. So thank you so very much. City Clerk, is there any public comment? All righty, what time is it? It is 10:27, and I adjourn this meeting. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.